as women and women of color, we think about this a lot. Like, we've had these experiences, and so that's why we want to do better.
Yeah, I think it's important to be able to kind of see yourselves in these play experiences, and it's important for the cis males to also see other people out in the world. Like, it's gives you this closed worldview to see no one but the same white males doing the same white male fantasy power fantasies all the time. So they're limited in kind of what they even accept of the world or see of the world. They don't see that these people even exist out there. So I kind of want to ask from the development side, Mitu, how does this affect developers who are like creating these kind of like sexualized versions of women, or like these like nasty stereotypes and things like that? Because I feel that must have an effect on like a development team who spends months and years like crafting like something frankly gross.
Frankly gross. Hey guys, did you know that minorities exist? Crazy. It's crazy. I didn't know that until I saw them in my video game. That's how I knew. Yeah, that guy just screams sex offender. Yes, he definitely does. You can just tell by the way he's like shaking as he talks, like, please, I need your acceptance, women. Please accept me. Frankly gross. And this is the thing. You had a time in the beginning when it was just, guys creating these cool video games or making cool stuff. It's almost, I don't want to say a hobby, but, it was niche. It was a really small community. People like on the cutting edge. They're just, how can we make the coolest thing ever? How can we make this really cool, really knock people's socks off? Make a name for ourselves. And then at some point it transformed where liberal activists came in. It had to be, people started worrying about sort of ethical consumption of this sort of art form. We need to make stuff that isn't gross. It isn't gross because, white male power fantasies. We can't stop making these white male power fantasies. We need men to see that people of color exist. This is what sort of video games are being pushed nowadays. These studios and people inside of it are pushing. They want video games to be propaganda for their sort of liberal activism, where white men, you can see, and I was watching a few of these GDCs. This is a game developers conference, if you're not familiar with it. It's, held annually, and it's where they give, talks about, some stuff's, just basic video game stuff, like how to make this or physics or data analysis, and like talks about it, just sort of like trade stuff, get people thinking. And other stuff is also like women in gaming, or this is masculinity in gaming, which is so funny. This is one of the first times he talks, but the two speakers are women. Masculinity in gaming, these are the people that tell you, you need to talk to people with, the lived experience about it. Yet all of a sudden, when it comes to talking about men or masculinity, there's no need for a male speaker. We don't want to hear from men. We have two women to help explain to you what masculinity is supposed to be, or the issues with masculinity in video games. So, you had the Gamergate where Anisa Sarkeesian shows up, starts talking about, sexist tropes. And then games journalists and games developers just fall over themselves, like, oh my God, this is so right. We just got done. It was a complete 180 from people rejecting where Jack Thompson was kind of like sleazy lawyer. Jack Thompson was saying that, video games cause school shootings, and everyone was making fun of that Jack Thompson, like all the developers, the games journalists. Oh, Jack Thompson, what a ridiculous guy. That's crazy. Video games that cause violence. And then immediately it's like, oh, video games cause sexism. Yes. Oh, video games reinforce harmful, hyper-masculine tropes. Oh my God, I can't believe it. We need to do something about this. Hey, let's make things worse. Let's make women uglier. We can't have hyper-sexualized women objectifying them. And you know what? so you had all this where like they're saying gamers are dead. We need to move past gamers. This white male, even see him say it.
Also see other people out, and males also see in these play experiences, and it's important for the cis males to also see
Cis males,
other people out,
other people out.
Like
Oh my God, other people.
It gives you this this closed worldview to see no one but the same white males doing the same
white males,
fantasy,
white males with the white male power fan. And this is every games journalist right here. This is the same way they think. White males, white male power fan. We can't have white male power fan. We need a woman of color in our Star Wars game as our protagonist. And she can't be hypersexualized at all. But hey, you know what? How this ends? It ends like this. This is what happens. Because turns out, I mean, you could try to make a game that, you know, gets rid of all the white men and the white male power fantasies. But you know what? White males are still the dominant force in gaming, the primary demographic. And well, when you ignore them, when you specifically make a game that has no sexualization at all, no masculinity, well, you end up with the biggest flop in the history of the world. Here's an update, important update on Concord. I wonder what's happening. Concord fans, we listened closely to your feedback since the launch of PlayStation 5, and I don't think it was the fans that are giving you the feedback. And PC, and want to thank everyone who's joined the journey above the North Star. Your support and passionate community has grown around the game has meant the world for us. That's sure true. However, while many of the qualities of experiences resonated with players, we also recognize the other aspect of the game. Our initial launch didn't land the way we intended, of course. Therefore, at this time, we decided to take the game offline beginning September 6th, 2024, and explore options, including those that will better reach our players. I love this sort of a journalist speak. I should make a neighborhood caddying. Absolutely. That's woman of color right there. That's the lived experience of women of color. It really shows, you know, you got to expand the white male experience. You know, white men don't know about these things. They need to know about these women of color and their experiences. We've determined the best path ahead of Concord. While we determine the best path ahead, Concord sales will cease immediately, and we'll begin a full refund for all gamers who purchased the game for PS5 or PC. If you purchase the game for PS5 from the PlayStation Store or the PlayStation Direct, a refund will be issued to your original payment method. Customers who purchase the digital storefront will also be refunded. More information about the refunds from Steam and Epic found below. Other retailers come to purchase a physical copy at the retail location outside PlayStation. Please refer to a refund process of your retailer you purchase it from to obtain a refund. I don't know if that's so. It's up to the retailer to give you a refund. That's interesting. Maybe they'll actually, you know, tell them like, hey, we'll give you your money back to the retailers. But this is monumental. This unfortunately was announced after the podcast. September 3rd was after the podcast last Sunday. Concord shut, and it's already been shut down. This announced September 3rd, and they shut it down September 6th. They refunded money. They just gave people their money back. This is just how monumentally bad this game flopped. This is incredible, like unprecedented. Hundreds of millions of dollars went into this game, 8 years of development, and it dies within 2 weeks. And not just like, hey, it's just puttering along, you know, making some money here and there. They decided to shut it down. It was so bad. It was so unliked that they shut the game down and gave people their money back. What's amazing is the game itself doesn't look terrible. It was just so, people were so apathetic to it that there was just no way for it ever to make money. They just knew it was a complete loss, and they'll probably just write it off as a tax write-off. I don't think it can be salvaged, where like they relaunch it as free to play a year later or something. The design's so horrible that it just couldn't do anything. But just amazing, absolutely amazing what happened to Concord. And this is when you completely reject the white male power fantasy. Well, guess what? This is what you get when you make just terrible characters that don't hypersexualize or reinforce hypermasculinity. When you're worried about that, when you think your audience, when we moved on beyond the male audience, well, you get absolute failures like this. And they'll try and say that it wasn't this, but like Jason Schreider here, another propagandist for the liberals here, liberal activism. Wild news, PlayStation game Concord has performed so poorly, the company is pulling from stores and refunding anyone who bought it. Every time a live service game with no hook or strong word of mouth fails to penetrate the oversaturated market, the most annoying people on the planet will be there to blame diversity. Of course, it's not diversity. It was never diversity's fault. It just didn't have a hook. It did have a hook. This is the thing. It had a hook. It was the perfect liberal game. That was their hook. It didn't have any like sexualized women. It didn't have any hyper masculine males. It was totally diverse, full of diverse characters. They hired trans women to play these characters and did like facial, recognition, queer Arab women of color. They had them in there doing their like face recognition. These were real women in their game. That was their hook. But guess what? Nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted that hook. And of course, they're like, oh, you know what? We're not going to be a predatory live service game. We're going to charge you $40 up front, and then you just pay for for your skins. Of course, the skins don't have any sexuality to them, so you're probably not going to buy them. They don't really look that cool because we've removed any sexuality from any of the characters or the models or any of the skins. So there's really nothing to kind of excite you about it. But, you'll like it anyway because it doesn't have any of that icky, that gross, as this gentleman said. It doesn't have any of that grossness to it. You don't want to play a gross game, right? Well, this game wasn't gross. And this is how it turned out. No grossness, no sales.